Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé that I don't want to take care of her kids? I have been with my fiancée Tina for 9 years now. We are both 34. She has 2 sons with her ex from high school. One is 14 and the other is 12. Both are good kids. I've always been there for them with 0 issues. Tina has always provided for the kids financially and hardly asked me for anything. We always covered the bills 50-50, and I always covered her kids financially. When she couldn't, which wasn't often, with no problem. Likewise, if I was ever short on money, she would send me far more than I actually needed and refuse to let me pay her back. Money was never an issue. The issue is time. Well, she just gave birth to my baby 8 months ago. A perfect baby girl who is the absolute apple of my eye. I didn't know I could love this much. The problem is that it's grown increasingly obvious that I just want to spend time with my daughter. I'm barely home as it is. I work 6 days a week. Tina works from home. When I'm home, I literally just want to hang out with my daughter because I'm barely able to. I go to work at 5 a.m. and don't get home until 4:30 to 5 p.m. I only get about 4 hours to hang out a day. I want to scoop my daughter up and just hang out with her. That's it. That's all I want. I'm already missing so much. But Tina's 2 sons, every single day, are asking me as soon as I get home to hang out with them, to go play pass with them, to go to the park with them, to go swimming or fishing or whatever else. And I keep getting irritated because dividing my time and not spending that time with my daughter is physically painful. Well, Tina asked me last night what was going on because she said she can no longer ignore the fact that I'm acting like I hate her sons. I told her that I don't hate them at all. I actually love them a great deal. But I can't ignore the fact that I truly have 0 desire to divide my time between them and our daughter, considering our daughter is growing like a weed and I'm already missing everything. She looked extremely hurt and said that her sons keep asking why I don't like them anymore, and she asked that I talk to them. I told her that I would eventually talk to them, but right now it would be nice if she could just explain to them that I'm trying to be a dad. She said, "Yeah, well, you seem to be forgetting that you played dad for 9 years before you had a baby, and now you're pushing them away like last week's garbage." She was getting snippy with me and visibly irritated at this point, so I just snapped and said, "I don't want to freaking take care of your kids right now." She started crying and walked away. I tried apologizing later and she wouldn't speak to me. I tried hugging her and she asked me not to touch her. She slept in the nursery. I went to work this morning. I just got home and they are gone. Most of their stuff is gone. There's a note on the table that says, "I will not jeopardize my older kids' mental health for the sake of your feelings. I will bring our daughter by to see you once a day and give you time with her, and then leave again. We can work out a custody agreement later on when she's no longer breastfed. I wish you the best." I'm gutted. I called my buddy just to vent and cry or whatever. And he said, "Well, isn't this what you wanted? Now you get time with your kid without distractions from kids that aren't yours." I don't know how to feel. I didn't mean I wanted them to leave, and I definitely didn't imply that I didn't love them anymore. She won't speak to me. She said, "I will not be answering texts unless they are about our daughter," and has not returned my numerous phone calls to fix this. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You actually wrote this, read it back, and then still had to ask? You're the a-hole. If you really don't see what's wrong with what you did here, I highly recommend some professional help. He even doubled down on a reply. Facepalm. You're the a-hole. Finally, a parent in this sub that will put their children over their terrible, selfish partner. You are getting exactly what you deserve. Now, absolute best case scenario is that when your daughter gets a little older, you'll still have to work so you'll get those evening hours with just her. 50% of the time. The other you don't get to see her at all. And that's if you get 50-50, which based on your behavior, you won't. I'm not being selfish. I literally just want to spend time with my kid, and everyone is demanding my attention. Welcome to the real world. We have to make balanced choices and don't get everything we want. You set yourself up as a father figure for those boys. It is cruel to them to suddenly stop because something better came along. Now that your own infant is here, you are ignoring them as though the boys are meaningless to you. Tina did exactly the right thing to protect the boys from you. Stop doubting and start apologizing. I have been. I've sent over 30 texts at least, called her 16 times. I've called her mom and sisters even. They won't answer my phone calls either. I know she's reading my texts because I sent one that said I was panicking and just needed to make sure she was fine. And she texted back saying, "Our daughter is fine." Just shut the heck up with everyone. The fact that you think anyone is going to talk to you is wild. Once your daughter figures out what a POS you are, she'll be gone too. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ending my marriage because I couldn't handle the reality of marriage to a widow with kids? I, 32 male, got married almost 3 years ago. Right now, I'm going through a divorce from my wife, 31 female. My wife was a very young widow with 2 kids when I met her. We dated for almost 2 years before getting engaged, and we were engaged for 5 months before we got married. My wife's kids are 12 and 13 as I'm writing this, and I walked away a little over 6 months ago now. My wife's late husband died suddenly about a year and a half before we met. Looking back, I can see how fast it could all be for the kids. I can see why maybe it was too fast. But I've known people who remarried even faster and were happy in their second marriages, and the kids did fine. So I was running on the belief that this would be the same for us. During the dating period, things went well. I got along well with my wife's kids. They accepted me being around, and we were building a solid relationship. My wife and I enjoyed our time together during that period, and I felt like she was truly committed to me. Even when we began living together, it was good. Only after the wedding did the kids withdraw from me. They were no longer okay with me driving them around. They would reject my offers to help with homework or take them someplace, and would instead say they wanted their mom to do it. Anytime we talked, they would share less about their day with me. If I asked them if they were okay, I got a shrug or a yeah. Before the wedding, they didn't mind saying the good and the bad. They also looked at photos of their dad more, and I noticed some of his stuff appearing around the living area of the house more. My wife's parents commented that the kids hadn't really looked at the photos so frequently or scattered their dad's things around the house like that since he'd been newly gone for the first 6 months, to be more accurate. I never minded having the photos out or even their dad's stuff. When we started living together and moved into the house, I explained they could have photos and his things around the place. They chose to keep them in their rooms at the time, and I could be a little sensitive to what was happening. Maybe I was just never cut out for it, but at times, I felt like they were trying to mark the house as their dad's house. One time I really felt this was when their dad's mug suddenly appeared at the spot at the table I would sit at every time. I'd been sitting there for months, and suddenly his mug was there and it remained there. And whenever we would eat together, they would stare at me to see if I'd sit there or somewhere else. I talked to my wife about it, and she told me I did the right thing by taking another seat. They also started putting photos of when their dad was alive in more prominent positions and would hide ones that included me behind them. I asked one day if they had moved the photos, and they said yeah, that they wanted the photos of their family to be seen. Alongside this, my wife was acting differently. She made less time for us. When we were together, she wasn't as affectionate, and I caught her playing with her first wedding ring, which she wore around her neck, more often. She started calling her late husband's family her in-laws again, but didn't refer to my family that way. Her priority was spending time with her late husband's parents and siblings, and she would choose to spend time with them over mine, even if the kids were not going to be joining us. Often she would forget when we had plans with my family. She really made zero effort with my family, and my family tried to get close to her and the kids. Plans we had discussed before marriage were also changed. We had discussed having kids together and agreed we wanted 1 or 2, but then she said she didn't know after we were married. She wasn't like this with other people. She was just as open and affectionate as before with everyone else. She enjoyed herself, but it was like being reminded of me was a bucket of ice water over her head. I tried to discuss it with her, but she was busy. Or she'd say she had no idea she was doing it and promised to be more conscious, but she wasn't. And then she started talking about her late husband more. I would try to engage with her about him, but she'd carry on without me and almost seemed to dislike me talking about him. In the end, I couldn't do it. I know there are ways to try and make it work, but I didn't feel like anyone else wanted to. So I told my wife I couldn't do it anymore and said I wanted a divorce. She looked startled at first, and then asked me why, and we talked briefly about it before I left the house. We did go to a couple of therapy sessions together after the separation, but she closed down certain topics, which made me more secure in my decision. And her kids did not miss me at all. Apparently, once I was gone, the kids told their aunt that the house felt like a home at last. They didn't say it outright as, now that he's gone, but it was implied. My wife's parents don't understand why I didn't stay and fight for us all to come together and be a family. They said I gave up too fast, and that I knew what I was getting into when I married their daughter. My wife has asked for us to work it out, but I don't see a future for us. Does all of this make me the a-hole? It's okay to recognize when a situation isn't working for you, especially when it feels like you're not being prioritized or accepted. If you've given it your best shot and still feel unhappy and unsupported, leaving isn't selfish. It's protecting your own well-being. Thank you. I feel like there are other things I could have done, but each and every one felt like it was just prolonging something that will never work. At least not for us, and not right now. No, you are not the a-hole. I honestly believe that she moved on too fast. She was most likely still grieving and hurting from losing her kid's dad. And when she met you, it probably felt really good to not be sad anymore because you made her happy, and so it was like being on a high for her, a whirlwind experience. And she got to forget all about the sadness for a little while. But after the newness of your relationship wore off, that sadness came back. And it didn't help what her kids were doing. They kept reminding her of their dad, which probably made her feel guilty. So then that made it hard for her to be able to fully engage in your relationship. I feel she needs more time to grieve her first marriage before she's ready to move on with somebody else. I'm sorry you are going through this. I can see that being very possible. Maybe she got caught up in everything, and once it was a done deal, it brought her grief back. I just hope all three of them can be okay after all of this. We didn't work out, but I hope in the future they can all be happy. Last story. Am I the a-hole for stepping back from my family after being repeatedly excluded by my golden child brother, even when I paid for everything? My father was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer almost 7 years ago. He's 69 now, and despite multiple surgeries and rounds of chemo, he's still here and living a full, productive life. My wife and I suggested hosting a Thanksgiving-style celebration with extended family to honor his journey and give thanks. Once my siblings got involved, things went sideways. I'm the eldest of 4, 39 male. Then there are my brothers, 36 male and 33 male, and our sister, 30 female. My second-born brother Ryan and I have had a lifelong rivalry. We've never gotten along, not as children, not now. He was always our father's favorite, while I was made to feel like the proverbial stepchild. I could never understand it. While we all got the best education money could buy, our home life was chaotic and abusive. I left home after high school to get away from the dysfunction and abuse. My siblings all stayed, endured what I couldn't, and got their degrees in university. I remained the uneducated black sheep of the family. Anyway, when I left, Ryan stepped into the role of man of the house during our parents' brief separation. He's held an unspoken authority over the family dynamic ever since. I've never wished him harm, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's prayed for me to be hit by a bus. No one in my family ever calls him out. It's like everyone tiptoes around him. Back to the celebration. Once we got buy-in from the siblings, Ryan bulldozed the planning. He insisted on dates that would make it impossible for my kids to attend because of school. My wife and I live across the country. Everyone else is local, so we needed coordination. Ryan refused to consider alternative dates, saying he didn't want to risk our father having a health setback. This man was diagnosed 7 years ago and is doing well. That's the whole reason we're celebrating. When my concerns were brushed aside by everyone else, who either ignored me or seemed too afraid to challenge Ryan, I left the WhatsApp group I had created to help plan the function. I told them I'd step aside but was available to assist if needed. No one contacted me except to collect money. I pledged $10,000, same as Ryan, and my other two siblings each volunteered $5,000. The day came. Since my wife and I weren't involved in planning, we arrived as guests. The event was disorganized and cheap-looking, nowhere near what $30,000 could or should have produced. Based on the food, decor, and setup, hosted at my parents' house, it honestly looked like the only money that was actually spent came from the $10,000 I sent. The rest? Who knows? There were half-hearted decorations, lackluster catering, barely enough for the people there, and a visible absence of my children. People noticed. A month later, my mother phoned me, upset that I'd left the group and refused to cooperate, again, placing the blame squarely on me. I tried explaining, but she wouldn't hear it. It felt like she was looking for a scapegoat for how mediocre the event turned out to be. To protect our peace, my wife and I have stopped jumping through hoops to attend family events. If something's during school term, we don't rearrange our lives anymore. We show up when we can, without the kids, and still get labeled uncooperative. And this wasn't even the first time. 2 years prior, my mother told me she was gifting the family a vacation through her timeshare. She said she'd asked Ryan to call me and coordinate dates with me. That call never came. A few days later, she phoned me, furious that I hadn't made plans. I told her I'd never heard from Ryan. She wasn't hearing it. I called him, and he casually told me the holiday was already booked for dates in the middle of my kids' school term. His kids are preschoolers, so no issue there. When I asked him to explain this to our mother so she'd understand why we couldn't go, he refused. Again, I was blamed for keeping the kids away and feeding the rivalry. I'm exhausted from being excluded, blamed, and expected to go along with everything. My wife and I have stopped rearranging our lives for family events that disregard us, but I'm questioning if I'm wrong to step back. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Do yourself a favor and take an even bigger step back. You mentioned that your childhood was abusive, but I don't think the abuse ever stopped. They just changed the format. Nothing you've written makes it seem like these people are worth the effort to visit, with or without your children. Your parents were abusive when you were a kid, and they are manipulative and abusive now. Your brother is selfish, and likely a thief, and your other siblings are cowards and complicit in this behavior toward you. I think you'd be better off further limiting contact to emergency situations only. Your parents can focus on their favorite, and he can enjoy that. Without you there to blame, they'll probably turn on your other siblings. Maybe that will help them grow a backbone. It's hard to escape a toxic home. Focus on enjoying the family that you've built instead of giving those miserable people more of your energy. True, your brother's a jerk. Your family enables him, and you're always the one getting screwed over, even when you pay. They treat you like crap, ignore your kids, then blame you? Cut them some slack, but not yourself. You deserve peace.